Well, Coach, this has been great so far. I think a good time for us to move on to. I'm going to ask you probably an impossible question for you to answer, but it's going to be start, sub, sit, these three different past coaching stops that you've had, and which one has been the most impactful in your coaching career? I know, tough question, but we're going to go start, sub, or sit. The start will be the most impactful. Your stop in Harlem, your coaching stop in Mozambique, or your coaching stop at DeMatha Catholic in Maryland.
That's awesome. That's really good. I have to start with Harlem. I have a photo of my players from my first year. This is 2005. I'm at a charter school, K-8 charter school in Central Harlem. My boss brings in a bag of balls and just drops it off. I was a middle school math teacher for 6 years there. I was part of the Teach for America program. It changed my life. I grew up relatively sheltered in Eugene, Springfield. I graduated from University of Oregon. Next thing I know, I'm teaching in the South Bronx in a classroom of 35 students with 30 desks and chairs. I hadn't seen poverty firsthand before in my life. I hadn't seen, I never heard of a student coming to school without breakfast, things of that nature. And so, when I moved on to a charter school in Harlem where we had this phenomenal, school with Black excellence, really, I was so proud of what we achieved there. We had a graduating, class of 25 eighth graders, and half of them went to prep schools and are doing amazing things with their lives all these years later. I have to start it because I don't get my coaching start unless I do that, and so I started as a middle school coach. And got my reps there. It's really helpful that I did that because now as I'm building my own high school program, I can go to all my youth coaches who have career aspirations and say, I started where you were. And this is where you can really impact and teach the game and set the foundation. A lot of the young men that I look at in this photo on my desk, they didn't go on to play high school basketball even after, but they did win a New York City charter school championship. It's to this day the only championship I've won. So, I'm still on that chase. That's okay. But they're my first year. We go undefeated and we lose in the championship game. And a lot of these guys, to put themselves out there, to have the courage to come back the year after, after being let down is something that I'll never forget. So I owe these guys everything.
I'm wondering about when you do, and you've mentioned a couple of times, when you get young coaches asking you for advice about, hey, where do I start? How do I get into the game? What should I do? What kind of job should I take? And having this extensive, unique background, I guess, what is the advice that you do give young coaches?
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to, again, for anybody who's out there listening, my email, my phone number, if you guys ever reach out to Dan and Pat, please feel free to share them. Because I was in their shoes 15, 16 years ago. I didn't come from a coaching tree or I didn't play collegiately. I didn't have the networking connections that I do have now 15, 16 years into the journey. But for me, the most impactful thing I heard was Kevin Eastman. I read it in the magazine or I heard it in an interview somewhere where he said, never turn down a basketball opportunity. And one of the most fulfilling things for me was when I finally got to meet him in the USA basketball context. I got to thank him in person, like Coach Eastman. That advice, I didn't know who you were, and I just heard it, but it made all the difference in my career. So, I get married in 2006. I had this amazing 2 years of being a middle school basketball coach and have an inkling that this might be something that I should pursue. And the Basketball Without Borders camp was taking place in South Africa, in Johannesburg, just 6 hours drive from Mozambique, where I was living. And I hop on a bus. I go to downtown Joburg. I had sent out a bunch of emails, and one of the guys in the league office said, "Hey, yeah, sure, come on, go ahead. We'll take you on as a volunteer." Hop on this bus. I'm crossing country borders, Pat. Like, what that's like, having played in Europe and all that. You don't know what you're going into.
Yeah.
I walk in, and that next morning they had put me in a rebounding and shot blocking station with Dikembe Mutombo and Manu Bull. But had I turned down that basketball opportunity, had I chickened out at that last minute and not get on that bus to cross into South Africa, I don't know where my journey goes. So that was a real teachable moment.